This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good day. The time being 4:46 p.m., I'd like to call the December 29th, 2020 meeting of the Tilton Select Board to order. Before we get started, please mute your microphone during the meeting unless you want to speak. Otherwise, background noises will interfere with the meeting. As chair of the Tilton Select Board, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis and in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically, and these reasons shall be reflected in the minutes. Please note, there's no physical location to observe it and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that A, we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone. Members of the public wishing to attend this meeting electronically may call the following conference call number at 1-866-899-4679. Access code is 817-026-717, followed by the pound key. B, additional public access by video or other electronic means will be available as follows. We are using the GoToMeeting platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate remotely using your smartphone, tablet, or computer at global.gotomeet.me/town of Tilton/Selectmen. This information can also be found on our website at tiltonnh.org under meeting schedule and agendas, and then go to the one that says Board of Selectmen. C, we are providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing this meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting via telephone, conference, and by GoToMeeting, and instructions are provided on the Tilton Town website at tiltonnh.org and at the town kiosk. D, we are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting that a member of the public wishes to speak or be recognized during any public comment or public hearing. If you're a member of the public and you have questions, please write those questions down. And at the end of each agenda item, I will ask if there are any questions from the public before we move on to the next agenda item. Please state your name and address and then ask your question. E, we are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are any problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please email web@tiltonnh.org, which will be monitored during the meeting. F, we will adjourn the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. Please note that all votes that are being taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, also please state whether there's anyone else in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Given the unusual circumstances, we will dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance. Constantino.
Constantino present. There are two others in the room.
Dog present, one dog in the room.
Jessamine is present, and I am alone. Pyra.
Pyra is here. I am at work, and there are two other people in the room with me.
Okay. Scanlon. Apparently, Selectman Scanlon is running a bit late. We'll move on. I would move the minutes of December 10th to the floor for discussion. Are there any additions, comments, or corrections?
Hold on. Excuse me. I don't know which one it was, the 7th or the 10th or the 17th. I did have one issue in it. Which one was the budget that Tim talked about? All right. Jeannie's saying the 17th. I can read lips. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
All
I have
right.
no.
Then I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of December 10th as presented. Is there a second?
Second, Constantino.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Pat?
Constantino, aye.
Dog, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Pyra, yes.
Okay, moving on. I would move the minutes of December 17th to the floor for discussion. Are there any comments, questions, corrections that anybody would like to make?
I have one. I did send it to Gail in the budget where I made a motion to approve the outside agencies cap is listed as 2,000 and it was actually supposed to be 12,000.
Okay. Is there anything else? Hearing no further discussion.
I see that, and I'll
Yes.
get it corrected.
It's corrected.
I said I see it, and I'll get it corrected.
Okay, if there are no other comments, I make a motion to approve the minutes of 12/17 as corrected. Is there a second?
Constantino, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All those in favor say aye. Constantino,
Aye.
Dog, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Pyra, yes.
Okay, moving on. I would like to gratefully make a motion to accept the following senior center donations. $300 from James Johnston Jr., $25 from Joan McFarland, and $20 from Marie and Lou. The last names are unknown, but is there a second?
Constantino, second.
Is there any discussion?
Joe, do we know if I believe on some of the, I only got one picture of the check that I can see that one of them is identified as the bus and I don't know how many are identified as the bus and how many to the center itself.
They're all made out to the senior center, correct?
Well,
There, I don't see anything that says bus, Pat, on the 3 donations. It says Tilton Senior Center on the Johnston check. There's nothing in the note section. Jean McFarland says Tilton Senior Center. There's nothing on the note section. There was a $20 cash donation, which has nothing on it.
it must be the one that's coming up then. Thank you, because there's one that said van on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Well, thank you.
Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Roll call vote. Constantino,
Gratefully accepting, thank you.
Bog, yes.
Jessamine is yes. Pyra,
Looks like we
Ira?
lost them.
Yep.
Okay. The motion carries. I make a motion to accept a donation to the senior center in the amount of $1,000 from Bob McPherson. Is there a second?
Constantino, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Pat?
We're very grateful for Bob's donation. This is not his first, and hopefully it won't be his last. He's done this for the last maybe 4 years with the senior center, so very, very grateful.
I'll second that. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Constantino,
Constantino, aye.
Bog, yes.
Jessamine, aye. Pyra,
Pyra, yes. Pyra, yes.
Scanlon? Okay, moving on. We're gonna jump down to the selectmen's reports because the budget presentation isn't entirely ready, presentable. First thing
Are we
on the
good to go?
list is Selectman
Am I
Fogg.
good to go?
And the only thing I have to report, I think DOT hit one of our manhole rings on Main Street, I think out in front of the town hall. Johanna was going to ask Kevin if that's something he could do and bill us for time and materials. Along that vein, Tim, can you figure out the total hourly cost per DPW employee, including benefits and all, so we could come up with a fair hourly rate?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
And that way, if he is able to do it, he gets fully paid for what he's doing.
Yep.
That's all I've got.
Thank you, Peter. I'm next. Go ahead, Jeannie.
I was just gonna say that manhole cover, just so you know, we actually received a call from a resident who was concerned that when our folks plowed, that they might grab it, they might do more damage. And so it was based on that call that I called Kevin, and I think he and Johanna talked. So thank you to the resident for paying attention.
Okay, I'm next. I'd just like to remind everybody that the winter parking ban started on November 15th and remains in effect until April 15th. No vehicles may be parked on town streets between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. through April 15th. And next on the list is Eric Pyra.
As I'm walking to my car, I will defer.
Okay, Selectman Scanlon, I will provide you time later on if you need it, Eric. Next is Selectman Scanlon. Okay, we'll give John time if he needs it as well. Next up is Pat Constantino.
The budget committee is meeting this coming week, January 6th, and they will also meet January 13th as well. I do have a concern. I don't know if we need to make a decision here or now, but we have 2 employees in town hall that work so many hours as it is that on a daily basis and a weekly basis. And when they do take time off, and they finally get to take time off, it really should be their time off. And, you know, last week is a perfect example. We had to call someone in for an emergency meeting. And I think that we either should give them that time or pay for that time, or give them that paid time off back again or something, because it wasn't fair to take away their paid time off that we so gratefully gave them last week. So, you know, I can't tell you how many times that they get phone calls all during the week, and it's supposed to be their vacation. Um, and we do it every single time, but this couldn't have been avoided. And think that we owe them a big thanks, but I think we can do a little bit more than that. And no, they don't know I'm saying a thing, but it's my personal opinion on this one.
Well, are you making a motion? Is there a motion to be made? Or
I
are we
think,
just talking?
well, I can make a motion if you want. I'll make a motion that we reimburse them the time, or add to back their paid time off.
In the amount of time that they spent
The actual time that
doing what they needed to do?
right.
How do you go about paying somebody back for 10 minutes?
Well, I'm sure that we didn't just spend 10 minutes. I think that you'll find that we had an emergency meeting. I think that there was at least an hour or more, or at least a couple hours with a few times with the lawyer last week. I think that if you ask that person in a private setting, that you'll find that there's probably at least a day worth, or more, even more than that, spent on town business.
So that's your intent, even though you didn't actually state that how it was going to be implemented in the motion, correct?
Right. So I would like, so my intent is to pay back the time that was worked on town business in the form of paid time off, or if elected in monies, because it's at the end of the year and I don't know if we can actually bend the rules and carry over that money, that paid time off time. That's what I'm afraid of. If I say paid time off, I don't think we can carry over that time. So that would be in
Would
the
you like
form.
to weigh in on this, Tim?
The only thing I was going to say is that if you add paid time off to anybody's this year, it might throw off their ability to carry anything or use it.
Right.
Because, I mean, we're the last few days of the month. And that's more the issue. But anyway, that's all I was going to just add in.
So perhaps maybe we can do it in the form of pay for that time.
Peter, what do you think?
It'd be nice to know if we could talk numbers. Right now, it's very vague.
Well, how about if we get back to you next week with the number?
That's fine.
Okay. We'll talk with the people and get back to you. Does that sound good? I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, I'll
Sound,
withdraw my second.
sound good, Joe? We'll
Yeah,
get an actual
yeah,
number. Okay.
okay. You have anything else, Pat?
No, I'm all good. Thanks.
Okay. Eric, are you prepared? Eric? John?
Oh, wait, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
All right, I have to unmute, and I didn't know how to unmute in the car. I only had one thing, and I have a picture, and I can't send it, and I can't share it at the moment. But I was filling up at the gas station across from Town Hall the other day after the snowstorm, And I was looking, there's a bit of a pitch to the part of the roof of Town Hall. And I noticed it was clear as if the snow had fallen. Do we have any type of falling ice or falling snow signs at the bottom of Town Hall along the sidewalk?
I don't think so. I've never seen
And
it.
has it ever been an issue? It's not a lot, but I'll send the picture when I get home. But it just seemed like, if you get snow that builds up on there, you could get some ice chunks, and they could knock someone out.
It did
It
happen
does
when
come off the roof. I've been hit by it going into Town Hall.
the ramp, that
Yeah,
ramp roof.
the ramp.
Yep, up there, somebody almost got clogged right on the head one time.
We've
I
looked
think
at
Jane
estimates,
Alden.
right, in Jane Alden too,
It
but
was.
we've looked at estimates and they've gone anywhere from 4,000 on up to what, 17,000 to put something as an overhead out over there.
Yeah.
What about if you just put signs that say falling snow and ice? Warning, falling snow and ice.
We can do that.
I don't know. It was just a thought. That was it. That's all I had, and I will continue driving.
Okay. Jeannie, can we see what it would take to get some of those signs? It's
So
probably a good idea.
right, so I could, or I can reach out to, I would suggest Kelly Sedgley, the sign shop, because she's done the signs for us on the bridge and does a, great job and reasonable price, and ask her to give us a quote if that's what you'd like.
The prison will also make them too,
Oh, okay,
and then you can put them right on the banister thing.
okay.
Falling ice.
I can check there too, if that's what you'd like.
Yeah, that worked.
Actually, I think we may even have some from the last. I thought we had some that we put up there at one time. Either Dennis or Brock that got some and put them on the landing on the banister part and put them with the
Kevin
bracket.
might have them then. Kevin might have them.
I'm
Okay.
sending him an email right now.
Okay. So is that it, Eric?
Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. John.
John is
Oh,
on
John.
his way.
Okay.
Joe, he's on his way in. He just texted. He just got in.
Okay. All right. We'll
Here he
give him a
comes.
second.
Here he comes.
Hey, John. John.
Yeah, just getting in there.
All right. Thank
we
you,
go.
John. So excellent. And the last part for you, John, is to state if there's anybody there with you.
No, not that I know of. I just walked in the door. I hope not.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you. We're in the process of doing selectmen's reports. Have you got anything to submit?
No, not at this time, no.
Okie dokie. Tim, are you ready?
I am very close. I can take you through the
Tim,
I've got other things, Tim.
I've
I've got other things. Yeah,
So,
you're the other thing.
okay,
We'll get back to you, Tim. Jeannie?
yep. So I don't have a report this week, but there were some things I wanted to get back to you on. You had asked me about the quote that we had gotten from Milestone for the ball field, to level loam that. And I guess he didn't ever give us a formal one, but he did go back and get a quote, and he said that it would be $85,239. And I can send you the information on it, what they're recommending to do. So that is compared to Bay Hill excavation, which was at 110,191. So what I'll do is I'll email those to all of you to look at. You will be having on January 7th a public hearing to accept the $25,000 donation from AutoServe. I reached out to, well, Paul Gaudet actually hand delivered the check to Town Hall. I think you were here that day, Joe, when it came in.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we want to do a public presentation of this very significant check. And Dennis Gaudet has agreed, and we're looking at Thursday, January 7th at about 3:30 at the new police station. So I wanted to find out, I know it's a challenge trying to get all the selectmen because we have selectmen who work. The only other alternative I can think of is to try to do it on a weekend, but we've got to do it while it's light of day. And if you want to do it on a weekend, which maybe I think that's what Pat's saying, I'll need, oh no, okay. I'd need to go back and check with Dennis, but he's available on the 7th at 3:30.
I'm available.
I'm available. Peter?
All right. Peter?
Probably.
Rick?
No, I'm good. I had
How
to
about
step out
you,
of the
John?
car. Sorry.
How about you, John? John?
I can't do anything on weekdays until after, like 4:30.
We're having a meeting.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask what the question was? Because I stepped out of my car. I'm sorry.
So Dennis Gaudet or AutoServe, sorry about that. AutoServe made a $25,000 contribution to the new police station, and we wanted to do a check presentation from AutoServe to the town and get some publicity for them and for the town and for the new PD. 3:30 on Thursday, the 7th, works for Dennis. And so the question was, does it work? What other selectmen does it work for? So at this point, I've got 2 confirmed yeses, 1 maybe, 1 no, and you're left, Eric.
I will. Can you just send me an email and I will check tomorrow my schedule? I think I can make it.
Okay.
Quite frankly, I'd rather do this when all the selectmen could be there if we can arrange that on any level.
Well, I can go back to Dennis and see if he's available on the weekend.
Okay. If he's not, well, then we do it on Thursday, I guess.
Can we delay the meeting and have the first part of the meeting up there and have it just a little later? So John can be there and just open the meeting there?
Well, the issue is the lighting, Pat. It's going to be dark.
Got it. Okay. I forgot about that.
So I'll
We
go
could
back.
do it inside, couldn't we, with lights?
Not sure we have lights, do we? Do you really want to go to the inside of the building? Don't you want the outside of the building?
Well, publicity-wise, that's good, but inside-wise, that allows John to attend.
Well, let me go back and talk to Dennis, and I'll get back to you.
Okay.
The other issue was you did approve the Lawson Group to do the air quality study. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. I asked him to put the document, which I put 5 signature lines on because it didn't come that way. So
He'll learn.
I saw that.
if you would please sign that, we need to encumber the funds.
Okay.
And let me see. I want to let you know that I talked to Senator Guida the other day. He's making a push, just so you know, to get Caleb Hill funded. They have the votes this time, if you will, given the makeup of the body. I did speak with the Senate Majority Leader and asked him for his support on this project, and he said he would support it. So that's good news. So we may get Caleb Hill Road fixed. And then the last issue, which I have failed to bring up the last couple times, is I talked to a gentleman by the name of, well, I guess I won't say his name. I got a call from a gentleman who wanted to do, what is that when you use a magnet on the ground? Pat, we talked about this. He wanted to go on town property with
Right.
a magnet. And I'd actually got a call from John Ciarillo asking me if we had approved this. Apparently he had made a call to town hall, and it was his impression that he was given that approval. I called him and I said, no, that would be only something the selectmen would have to approve. John Ciarillo wanted to let me know that he was not representing the Historical Society. I told this gentleman I didn't think that, well, he shouldn't do anything until I talk to the selectmen. So that's my question to you. He says if he finds things, he's going to donate it to the Historical Society. And he's waiting for me to call him back to say yes or no from the board.
There is
John?
Yeah, I mean, I talked with John Cirillo and the Historical Society and also some other people, and they had the impression that when he does this, he keeps his things and sells them, and he
Oh.
might donate some things.
Okay.
Maybe I'll forward it, but all the stuff, if it's found on town land, I think should go to the town.
I think it's probably just easier maybe not to have him do it, because how are you going to monitor that? Right?
That would be my thought. I like the idea of him searching for artifacts, but there's no way that I would let Tilton history slip away. I'd rather see it stay where it is for now. Pat?
The other thing is when they dig, sometimes it doesn't always go back the way it's dug up, and sometimes the more professionals just use a small spade, but we don't know if he's a professional or not. And so some people go in with the shovel, and when they put the dirt back, it's not stable enough and they don't stomp on it. So do you want our island dug up in a manner that it's not put back stable enough in many places? And there is underground cable and wire under there that does not include piping. It doesn't go through piping. So I'm just afraid of the island itself being dug up in a manner like that with metal detecting.
Peter?
I'd say just don't allow it. Keep it simple.
How about you, Eric?
Did we lose Eric?
I think we did.
He's driving. We might have lost Eric. Well, I would say, Jeannie, that that was a consensus, not at this time. If they
Okay.
have a detailed proposal that answers some of these questions, then we can talk about it again.
Okay.
Still you, Jeannie.
That's it for me.
Okay.
Ken, if Tim is
Tim?
not ready, we could try to do the non-public.
How far off are you, Tim?
Only about 10 minutes.
Okay, we're gonna go do a non-public real quick.
Okay.
So I all emailed you the non-public information.
Right. The time being 5:22 p.m. I'd like to make a motion to move into non-public session for RSA 91-A, semicolon 3, paragraph 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against them. Is there a second?
Constantino, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. We expect to be back into public session at approximately 7:45 p.m. Roll call vote. Constantino?
Yes.
Yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Byron, yes.
Scanlon,
Eric?
Byron,
John?
yes.
yep, Scanlon,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, I'll see you on the other side. The other side.
This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome. It's 6:01 p.m. We're back in public session. I make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public meeting of December 29th, 2020, because the reasons justifying the need for the non-public session still remain. Is there a second?
Constantino, second.
Byron,
We have numerous seconds. Roll call vote. All those in favor say aye. Pat?
Constantino, yes.
Yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Byron, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
The motion carries. The next thing on the agenda is the 2021 budget, which Tim will present. Tim, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I have provided both in your board packet folder and also sent via email an updated budget and also some changes to it. But before I go into that, I just wanted to review a couple of things that were left over from the last meeting and also some of the work that was done on the budget based on what you requested at the last meeting. So just to bring your attention to it, there are two things other than what Jeannie had mentioned earlier in your sign now. There's a land use change tax form. That's all the land use changes, the money that we received this year in 2020, and that authorizes the treasurer to transfer the money to the Conservation Commission's account. There's also a small manifest that was done today. And then, as Jeannie had mentioned earlier, the encumbrance document for the air quality. In addition, at the last meeting, you wanted to wait until tonight to discuss two proposals, one for the impound lot for a camera of $1,258 and one for replacement of cameras and a new NVR at Riverfront Park for $3,957. I tried to set something up with the chair of the Parks Commission, see if he wanted to have another meeting to discuss. They had approved up to $4,500 of equipment, but the equipment was for the replacement of cameras and the uninterruptible power supply. In my view, this is even more, because you're getting a new network video recorder that is all digital as opposed to one that is part and part, and also new drives in it, everything new regarding it, and under warranty for less money than what they had approved for just the cameras and the uninterruptible power supply. But those were two things that you had asked to hold until this meeting. And then you had asked me to go back to the department heads and see what we could do to reduce the budget in each department. And I have a listing of those items by department that we were able to reduce. And in total, it amounted to, and I'll share my screen so that if you don't have it in front of you, let's see, I just have to find the right monitor here. Let's see. Where did it show up? All right, hopefully, hang on. All right, there you are. You should be able to see that in a minute. It should come up on your screen. And so that is, these are the items by department. So it was a total of $17,229 that has been able to be reduced since the budget issued on 12/9. And the most notable was in the police department. The chief and I went through that budget, and we were prepared to go through the lines and where he made his changes. But would you like to discuss, well, before I get into that, there's one other item that I'm going to need to talk to you about tonight, and that is failure of equipment that we had at the police department that is going to be required at the new station, and that is our radio recording device. We have a 4-channel Acorn system that was installed in September of 2014, so it's roughly 6.5 years old. It's a specialized device, but PC based, and it's been running 24/7 since then. Our cost to have them come, I've diagnosed it as much as I can with them. It's either a motherboard failure or hard disk failures or both. And it seemed to occur when we had our electrical issue in the server room. So that seemed to be when we had one of the power outages when the generator kicked on, and it appears at that time is when we lost it. And so in order for them, they could come up and do service on it, which is a minimum of $400 for the trip, plus any parts that would go into it. Concern I have is if it's anything more than, say, a hard disk or something, I mean, we could be looking at probably about a $1,200 service call to get it back up and running. A new one, which I put in your board packet, and again, this is, I'm bringing this up because it is a necessity that they have at the PD. The new one is $5,059.54, which includes not only all new equipment under warranty, but it includes a loaner, and there's no charge to install the loaner when they bring it. So in other words, we could have the loaner in place tomorrow afternoon. I didn't want to go ahead and spend $1,200 on what I think is going to be about $1,200 on a service call on a 6.5-year-old piece of equipment. If if we're looking at about 20 to 20+% of the cost of a new system, that in discussions with Jeannie, we feel as though that we could pay for it out of the contingency fund, that it meets the criteria for that. But given the discussion last time, and even though it's under the 20,000, and considering the timing of this, it just happened yesterday, last night diagnosed it, and this morning diagnosed it. So I wanted to bring that forward. So those are the items that are sort of on the periphery of the general discussion of the budget. So I'd be happy to go through the budget and the changes that we've made, and or if you want to attack these items first, it's board's choice.
Let's attack the items first.
Okay.
Cameras at Riverfront Park. That's a good deal, yes?
I think so. It's, you know, the Parks Commission wanted to encumber those monies for the purposes of changing out the old analog cameras with digital ones. I felt as though, you know, the analog cameras were still doing the job. They're not as clear resolution. You know, I mean, they've been wanting to replace them for a couple of years now. We've talked about it, at least Bob has. And they did approve up to $4,500 at one of their meetings, but that was for the replacement of 3 cameras and an uninterruptible power supply. I think I can swing the uninterruptible power supply in my budget. And but this recommendation was from Mango, by replacing the network video recorder at the same time, because that system over there is I think it turned out to be 7 years old, that system. And again, it's the same type of thing. You know, they all have hard drives in them, all these systems. The hard drives could be replaced, but given the fact that if we're going to replace all the cameras and they're going to be all digital, having an all digital recorder, I think is a better way to go. It's newer equipment. It's, you know, more updated, it's under warranty, so on and so forth. So my recommendation would be to do that, provided it, you know, it comes under the stated vote, which it is.
Can we look at what
Okay.
we're looking? Can we see what we're looking at instead of looking at whatever?
Yeah, I've got that here. Hang on one second. Sorry about that. Just got to bring the right one up.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Sorry about that. Can you all see that?
And these are encumbered funds?
This would be encumbered from the Parks Commission budget, and they have the budget to do it.
I make a motion, we encumber $3,957 from the Parks Commission funds for
Replacement of.
necessary video equipment.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Ira second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Peter, would you like to address this?
I think Tim already did, and I would defer to him on any technical questions anyways.
Okay, John?
John's good.
I'm getting abstained from this.
Okay, I understand. Eric?
No, I'm good.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Constantino?
Aye.
Fogg, yes.
Jessamine is yes. Eric?
Ira, yes. Ira, yes.
John? Oh, you abstained. Yeah, okay. The motion carries. We're going to replace the cameras at the park. The next thing is the camera at the impound lot. I'm totally not in favor of the camera at the impound lot. How about you, Pat?
Constantino, no.
Peter?
Yes.
I'm a no. How about you, Eric?
Um, I have something to say. I don't know how to say it. Um, so I was recently told that the cost on the camera was higher than what we're being told right now.
Apparently, that was a number for all the camera equipment involved.
Okay. Um, so, okay, then is it gonna, Tim? Is it gonna provide a different angle? Is it gonna, or is it gonna provide?
Yes, so the purpose is to, right now, there's one camera that has one view. We will install we as in Public Works, and I've talked to Director Duval about this, he will install in the spring a pole, and it's already been wired to the first pole when we installed the first camera, anticipating that at some point it would make sense to have a second camera. And this second camera will provide a complementary view, shall we say, from a different angle, which captures a different view from the first camera.
Is
And
there any
primary, yes.
way, Tim? And so you're a yes, Eric?
I said yes.
Okay, so without John's input, we're at an impasse. You have 2 no cameras and 2 yes cameras. I have a question, Tim.
Yes,
Can the camera that we have now be zoomed out to cover the entire lot area?
it is.
What do you mean it is?
It is now. That's how it is now.
So we have the camera zoomed out. It gets the whole lot, and
Yes,
we're looking to put another camera up to get another angle of the whole lot.
that's correct.
Now, I'm still a no.
Okay.
Apparently, we do not have a consensus.
It's not something that is something that we wouldn't be able to find within our budget if there was a determination during the year. I think I could make adjustments to my hardware or something. If it turned out that there was a need that was not obvious to me. So it's $1,258. It's
Tim, why is there a legal need that we need this, or is this just because you want a different view?
no. Chief, would you like to address that?
Sure, I might be able to help. I know that to say again that the camera that's there does cover the whole lot. I was told that they were trying to get an expanded view beyond the lot to try and prevent or apprehend suspects that get into the lot. We do have an obligation to protect the vehicles in the lot. After the last meeting, I did check the view, and the camera there now does cover any vehicle in the lot.
So if you're trying, have you had any issues in the past about people breaking into the lot?
We have, and
Okay,
they
you
come
have
in through the woods.
no.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me. They come in
I
through the
don't.
woods behind that lot.
Chief, don't say anything in public, please. It's a yes or no. Thanks.
So we have 2 no's, 2 yeses. Pat, you
Okay.
want to change?
And not at this time, Joe. I think that we can readdress this in 2021.
Okay, very good.
Okay, there you go, Tim.
All right, thank you. I'll move on. Would you like to discuss the Acorn? This is the Acorn replacement.
Yes.
I did check with Allcom because of and this is one of the reasons why I was a little delayed this afternoon, because I spent time last night and today working on this so that we can make a decision. I checked with Allcom, who also has this type of equipment. They're the people doing our tower and radio communications, and they have a different type. They use Eventide loggers or Eventide loggers, and they're designed for the next gen 911 systems. He said they're usually 15,000 and up, and they are 8-channel radios versus what this one is a 4-channel radio, which is what we have now. And the one we have now appears adequate for the radio traffic we have. As far as I know, we've never had an issue with it before this. So if we don't go with something like this, we may be looking at something that's about 3 times if we were to replace it. As I said, we can do a service on it and hope for the best, but this does run 24/7, because even when we don't have dispatch working, in the overnight hours, the radio traffic is still recorded. So just something to keep in mind.
Okay. Pat, what do you think?
How are we paying for it, did you say?
This would, and chime in if you like, but Jeannie and I discussed whether this would be, this qualifies for what we consider to be eligible underneath the contingency. And we both felt it was, so we would pay for this out of the contingency fund that we have for the new PD, because it is required. This is a requirement to have at the new police station. And keep in mind too that this does include a loaner that could be installed tomorrow afternoon at no additional charge.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we purchase the Acon recorder device for the police department, $5,059.54, with the understanding that it will also include a loaner device and
John is a second.
taken out of the contingency fund for the police department.
Okay, John, is your second still
Uh,
in effect?
yeah, I'll second that, but I just want discussion.
Yeah. Under discussion, John.
So what happened to the power when it switched off from the generator?
So I don't know exactly, and if it turns out that we can do a claim on our insurance, we won't know until they get into the thing. If they see, like a visible burn, like, if it turns out to be a motherboard or disk, if there's something that they say, oh gosh, this looks like this was, a surge that came in, and you should check with your insurance company. We have $1,000 deductible. It's possible. In all my years in IT, I got to tell you, it's a hard one to prove. But I don't know how Primex, works with things like this. They may be, easier to deal with, but in the commercial environment, very rarely did an insurance company pay out on something like this. I should note also for you that this is less money than a new system costs, because we're transferring the card that actually does the recording on the inside of the unit, and we're also transferring the software license that we have. So we are saving some money there in this. So this is primarily for all new hardware, aside from the one card. Hopefully that answers your question.
So yes, so it happened at the same time that the generator switched over. Right?
Well, I mean, we
That's
really
right.
don't know. It happened around the time where we lost power. Um, that's all I really know. Um, Unfortunately, there wasn't a pinpoint of when that happened. There was a lot of power issues during one of the storms, and the generator ran. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but it ran, I think, for 3 days at one point, or maybe 4 days. It was
Yeah, I
running
know.
quite a.
Yeah, Eversource didn't realize that we were one of the customers. They just thought our location was a house, and they apologized because normally they get us up quicker.
Yeah, I'd like to see if we can, kind of nail that down on an insurance on that electronics. It seems,
Well,
kind of
certainly. I
extremely
mean,
coincidental. Now, about the card, you said it doesn't include the recording card?
no. So the card, we would be taking the current card out of our system now. The one caveat is we're assuming the card is good. But the owner of the company said those rarely, in all their experience, those rarely have had an issue. Anytime they've had an issue, with something like this, it's usually either the hard drive or the motherboard. And but this is run continuously for 6.5 years,
Yeah.
24.
So it's a PC base, and the server is actually like a PC with Windows 10 installed, and they're charging $500 to transfer the software.
And also bring over our radio calls. So
And I guess I'm concerned that, we're not covering all of our stuff yet. That if the card failed, I mean, it's electronic, it's in the same thing that fried. How much more is that going to run us? Is that going to be like another,
I don't know.
you know,
Um,
and if they were to troubleshoot and find out it was just the card and everything else is good or something, that's, you know,
that's possible. That is possible. It's I think given the age, and it's not a standard PC, John. I mean it's PC based, but it's a ruggedized case, if you will, dual power supplies. It's not a standard thing, so I don't know what kind of motherboard they use. It's a very kind of standalone appliance, if you will. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it looks more like a server than a PC.
yeah. I guess I'm concerned about the whole, like there's one key piece that we don't know if that works or not. And if it doesn't work, what are we in for?
Right, and that's valid.
Yeah.
Um, I
Well,
can
it's
only go by what
tricky.
the owner
Yeah.
thought. Um,
How about you, Eric?
John just brought up what I was concerned about. What's the cost if this one card doesn't work? What's that going to do to the cost?
uh, Boy, I mean, it sounds like they're, because I asked what a brand new system would go for, and she said for a 4 channel between it was 62 and 6,500. So I would presume that includes both a license and the card. So I wouldn't think it would exceed that $1,500. But I don't know what portion is the license and what portion is the card. My concern, to be frank, is that by placing a service call, we could be into, $800, $1,000 very quickly, because the minimum is $400, and I think it's 165 an hour after that. So depending upon what they have to do, when they come, it could get expensive quickly. So that's I just didn't want to spend that kind of money on something that's 6.5 years old without bringing this to the board. Um,
Well,
I'm not happy
Mike,
about it.
my concern, I guess my question is, should we amend this to authorize you to go higher if we find out it's that versus just the whatever the 5,000? Should it go higher to include the that card in case this way you don't have to come back before us and delay it even more?
Well, with approval, we would be able to get a loaner tomorrow afternoon, and we'd be back recording our calls tomorrow afternoon, our radio, I should say, tomorrow afternoon. And what we could do is, I mean, there was some, Jeannie and I even discussed, and that this is well within the $20,000 that the board had approved for, certain things. But I felt, given the discussion at your last meeting regarding the equipment and also the timing of this, the fact that you were meeting tonight, I wanted to bring it forward. So I guess, if you were to make it not to exceed, $6,800 or something like that. I mean, she didn't give me an exact, quote on a brand new system because we had the license and we had the card. I wish I had gotten one from her. It was just verbal what she was telling me. But
Okay.
I mean,
How about
do
you,
that.
Peter?
Rather than live in the what if world, go with the 50, 59, 54, and if we need a new card, at that point we get the card, but why worry tonight?
Yeah.
He has the authority to go ahead. Jeannie and Tim have the authority to go ahead and do that if in fact it's coming out of the contingency.
Right. Yeah, I think really what I want is just to know that you're okay with replacing this, and then we'll make it work.
John?
So I guess we don't really have any choice because we got to get something going. Now, where is it recorded when Belknap is dispatching? Do they record? Or are they doing recording too?
I'm sure they record their radio traffic.
They do. They have a similar system. All the dispatch centers use something like Acorn or something similar.
But they don't do it while we're dispatching. They turn it off.
Right. So it's their channel based. So ours is recording our channel when we're using it.
Okay. So when they switch over for their dispatch, they turn theirs on.
Yes, that would be correct.
I don't think we really have much choice here it's very important for safety.
Okay. Let's move it to the floor and take a vote. We have a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no new discussion on the motion, I would say roll call vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Constantine?
Yes.
Yes.
Ira?
Ira, yes.
Hanlon?
Scanlon, yes.
And Jessamine is yes. The motion carries.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. All right. So getting back to these, the changes to the budget. Let me make this a little bigger for you. So there are additional things that we could do, and discussing with Jeannie, there are encumbrances such as the air conditioning. We could cancel that. That's 18,200. The assessment or the bridge study, those two things could also be done. There really wasn't a lot in the administration budget itself that we identified, to be able to reduce significantly. So if you were wanting to get further reduction, it would be one of those three things, or a combination, or all three for that matter. The bridge, the town hall assessment, and the second floor air conditioning. The town clerk tax collector wages, that's $644. That represented the change of wages 3 to 2. In IT, $4,700 reduction was the removal of iWorks products. And I need to notify them. There's the $2,700 one we made a few monthly charges on, depending upon the timing. But I didn't want to do anything prior to this meeting tonight when the board votes on the, hopefully my goal is to vote on the budget. Land use, there was really nothing in there that we could identify other than what the board had discussed in the prior meeting, which was just pertaining to hours and coverage. And then I'll come back to the police department because the chief, I went through that and he's prepared to talk some about those changes. In Public Works, there had been a $4,000 reduction that the Public Works Director had done prior to the December 9th. And in fact, I'm being told, Jeannie is reminding me that there was a motion, but actually no vote on the town clerk tax collector's wage change. So that would have to be corrected if you still want to do that. We would have to take a vote. Everything was done but the vote. There was a motion and a second, but somehow it got past that. So getting back to Public Works, there was a prior reduction. And honestly, I remember Kevin asking to put $200 back into a line. I honestly can't recall which line that was, but it was for a good reason. And I did not make a note of it, but in any case, there was a small increase. In sanitation, that was the adjustment that was made for the tipping fee increase and also the tonnage increase. As you recall, our tonnage is up about 10% and the tipping fee was up year over year as well. And then in health and welfare, from the 12-9 iteration of your budget, that was the $6,000. I'm also being told that the board needs to vote on the tipping fee increase because apparently there was a motion and a second, but again, no vote. This is what Jeannie's done. So in any event, culture and recreation and outside agencies, there were no changes there that we made from the departmental area. It wouldn't, just doesn't apply. So the total reduction and changes works out to be 17,229, unless you want to consider the air conditioning, the town hall assessment, or the bridge study.
Which I would just point out with those two, the town hall assessment, we've already received the matching grant, so we have that in hand, and the 17,000 is being matched by the state. So I don't recommend it, but if you're looking for places to cut,
I think my recommendation would be if you were going to do anything, we could make it another year, maybe with the air conditioning. That's separate from those grant related items. It does mean probably increased energy costs during the summer months, but that's $18,200.
We've put off the air conditioning almost 5 years now. We've put it in the budget almost 5 years now. We either do it or we don't do it. Take it off altogether. We're running 4 air conditioners up there in the summer, and that's when we didn't have that many employees working up there. Now we have not only employees working up there, but we have petitioned off offices up there to cool, that are much harder to cool those offices. I think it's our duty to keep them safe and comfortable while they're working. I'm not in favor of putting the air conditioning off another year.
Peter?
Get it done. We've been saying it for years.
Eric?
Yeah, get it done.
John?
No, I think we should get it done. We might want to wait before we actually start it till after we get our air quality in case something different has to be installed. But yeah, that money.
Okay. Me, I'm a no. It's $18,000. And maybe it's just me, but I know hot. I work in kitchens. So there you go. We're going to get the air conditioning done.
Okay. All right. So the purpose tonight, in my view, is to identify those items. Just make sure that that's what the board wants, which is now very clear. As we go through this, and hopefully as you vote on these budgets, that then we can take this to the budget committee this next Wednesday when they're meeting and present the selectmen's budget in total. The two items that will be following, and maybe Jeannie had already mentioned it during her administrator's report, but there's warrant articles that we're still working on, and then also revenues. We're trying to assess, in particular, the state revenues, which will have a real bearing on our budget, or on our tax rate, I should say. And there's not 100% clarity there. So we're still trying to work on that. So those will be forthcoming. But from the operating budget perspective, this is what we're looking at. And I can go through any one of these lines, like if there are questions, or if you prefer to vote on the total budget amount for each of the departments. I would say probably the easiest thing to do is to vote by department. The first one being the administrative department. They request $656,739.
I'll make a motion that we approve the total administration budget for $656,739.
Is Joe
Mark,
with us?
second.
Oh,
Joe, you're muted.
Okay.
All right.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All those in favor say aye. Pat?
Constantino, yes.
Vargas.
Eric?
Ira, yes.
John?
Scanlon, yes.
And Jessamine, yes. Moving on.
okay. Thank you. All right. The town clerk tax collector's budget is $135,023. And as I mentioned before, that represents the reduction of the salary from 3% to 2%. So a vote for the 135,023, and Jeannie, correct me if I'm wrong, that would indicate the approval of that reduction from 3% to 2%.
Correct.
So the number is $135,023.
I'll make a motion
Make a
for that amount. It's $135,023.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Is there any discussion on the motion? Pat? No?
I don't believe that we should be I do not believe we should be personally making a change in the tax collector's wages one way or another. I think we should let the legislative body decide on it. That's what she asked to put in the budget. That's what we should be presenting to the legislative body.
Peter?
I agree with Pat.
Eric?
Well, we're supposed to look at the budget and make changes to the budget that we see fit. So I say, however it's presented.
Yeah, I think, I agree with Pat, but in a different way. It is up to the legislative body to make changes. We said that all employees would get a 2%. And if the legislative body and Cindy presents herself, they can raise it.
She's not an employee, she's an elected official. Very different, and that's why it's depending on the legislative body and not the select board or anybody else to govern that. If it were, we wouldn't have this argument. She's the only one that depends on town meeting, and therefore she's asking town meeting to decide. Let her make the argument at town meeting if they have an issue. That's what we've done in the past. I don't see us changing it now.
And I think, and it's not meant to be an argument, but what we're doing here is what the selectmen recommend, not what, the town clerk, tax collector, or anybody else does. This is our recommendation, so.
But you're recommending it based on her work and what her job entails, and we shouldn't be doing that because she's an elected official. We don't know what she does and how much she does, what's involved in what her work is and how long she's worked. I mean, you just don't know that. We oversee all the other departments. You don't oversee that, so how can you speak on it?
Okay. I agree with both of you, kind of. But there's a motion on the floor, and we're going to find out right now. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Constantino?
No,
Bog, no.
Pyra, yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Jessamine votes yes.
Okay, if
So
I
the
may just,
motion carries.
okay, just wanted to point out something that when this, the votes that you're taking are going to show up in the selectmen voted column. So in the town report, the department request for the administrative budget will be slightly higher based on the taxes on requested increase of 3%, which will show in the department request column. In the selectmen voted column, it'll be what you have just voted for. So that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So was that motion for the 135,023?
Yes.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. Thank you. All right. Moving on to the finance budget. There were no changes in the finance budget from the prior budget. It's $120,876. The one big change before that was in the interest rate for the TAN for 2021, and that resulted in a big reduction in the interest.
make a motion, we accept the total finance budget of $120,876,000.
For a second.
Bog, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Constantino?
Yes.
Bog, yes.
Pyra?
Pyra, yes.
Scanlon?
Scanlon, yes.
Jessamine votes yes. The motion carries.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Long-term debt, of course, keep in mind this is predicated upon the current amortization schedule that we have, and it's half interest in 2021. So that's $246,300 is the amount.
Make a motion that we approve the finance long-term debt for $367,209.
If I may, that's the total of both the finance budget and the long-term debt. The long-term debt itself is 246,333.
You want to change that, Pat?
So I want to fund the finance and long-term debt at $367,209.
Dog second.
Tim, that works for you?
Yeah, that's fine. One's just gonna be a calculation, so whichever you go is fine with me.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the motion? We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Constantino,
Yes.
Dog, yes.
Myra,
Myra, yes.
Scanlon,
Scanlon, yes.
and Jessamine is a yes. The motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Information
Tim,
technology, the change there was reducing $4,700 for the iWorks products. I did notify both departments that are impacted by that and had some preliminary discussions. So the only caveat is that in the agreement with them, it requires a 30-day notice, so that we may incur a small amount for them in 2021. But until the board voted on this, I didn't want to notify them of anything since it was just a little over a week. So the total right now is $100,006.
May I ask a question on this? What departments is this iWork program going to affect, and what was their take on taking it away? Were they okay with it, or were they not okay with it? How is it going to affect the departments?
So I think the two departments are the land use department and public works department. And I think I mentioned to the board that we have, been looking at whether we're really making full use of these products. In the discussions with the land use department, they agree that we could probably be doing things in-house, but that they would need some tools set up for them, which I could assist them with, that would do the majority of what we're getting out of iWorks right now. So kind of like an 80%. What it will require some time, and what it really requires of them is the planning, and there's less involved in the public side, because I have something that by using some of the tools that we have in Google, we have the ability to set something up that will do the basics of what we're doing now, recording service calls and tracking and that kind of thing. So, and being able to report on it. So it's just going to require time. I don't think either one of them was terribly disappointed. In fact, it might solve a problem for land use in the refreshing of the avatar data, because I already do on a monthly basis, I do the exports from Avatar for our tax card lookup. And so I already work with that data quite a bit. And I feel confident we'll be able to put something in place. It may not be as comprehensive, as what they have, but in working with the department head, Leanne, and Janice and Al, I think we could probably come up with something that would work for them.
So can I just ask one more question? So you're saying that you can overcome the deficiencies in taking this iWorks program away, and with time, you can build other programs to mimic what iWorks was going to do for land use? That's what
Yes.
you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, and so my question to you is, where are you going to find that time?
Well, that time is going to be after town meeting. It would have to be after town meeting.
I see. Okay. I'm looking forward to see. I'm looking to see where you're going to find it.
Well, I mean, frankly, it's not going to be easy, but I have to tell you, the building, incorporating the building and building issues in my regular work has been an incredible challenge. And right now, in particular, because it's year end, it's everything else that's taking place right now.
So,
So,
so would
you
we
know,
be better off keeping this program for 1 year and maybe not subscribing to it the following year where it's not so busy?
I mean, I suppose I would recommend, if anything, just hanging on to the land use and letting the work lapse, because that's an easier project for me and would take far less time, because I've essentially got the bones of that already in place.
So do you know what the difference in monies is if we just held on to the land use, or would it be the same money?
No, it holding on to land use would increase it $2,700. The land use portion is 2,700. Public Works is 2,000.
I would, me personally, I'd make a motion to make a motion to approve the information technology budget by $102,706 to include the land use iWorks program.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Wait, did she say she wants to increase it by 102,000 or increase it to 100?
Increase it to 102,706, which means a $2,700 increase to include the iWorks program, which he took out of there for land use.
Okay, I just heard
We
funny
have a
things.
motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
No, I guess I agree with Pat. The Public Works thing, it's great having the work orders in that. It was very essential. About a year ago, when everybody was calling Kevin and asking him to do stuff, I think that Tim has something in mind that's quite simple. It's a lot easier to just make a program for doing that or tracking it. The iWorks, there's a lot of data on there, and it asks Tim to extrapolate all the data out of there so we can save it and get all this done in 30 days is kind of tough. I don't think it's a good thing to dump on them.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. We have a motion and a second on the floor. $102,706. Roll call vote. Constantino.
Yes.
Yes.
Ira.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon.
Yes.
Jessamine. Yes. The motion carries. Next up, Tim.
Okay, thank you. In land use, there were no changes to the land use budget. So that is still $127,156. The only discussion that came up And of course, there is the Plan New Hampshire charrette, which is an encumbrance. It wouldn't affect the 2021 budget, but it would add to our fund balance if you weren't carried forward with that. But the only other discussion, as I recall, one of the selectmen had inquired about the land use technician's salary, and that was due to the increase from 16 to 20 hours a week. But
So that number is 127,156.
That's
Correct.
correct.
Make a motion to fund the department in the amount of $127,156. Is there a second?
Constantino, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I guess a slight point of order, Joe. Were we going to implement
John?
the changing of the order?
We what?
I did change the order.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize you needed a vote.
No,
Be
no,
that as it may.
we're still voting in the same order.
I've just opted to go last.
Oh, okay.
That's all. That keeps everybody else in the same general order, and I'll cast the last vote. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Constantino.
Yes.
Fog, yes.
Ira.
Ira, yes. Yes.
Scanlon.
Scanlon, yes.
And Jessamine votes yes. The motion carries. Tim?
Okay, very good. Thank you. Health and welfare, that budget is $92,025. And that did include the one notable change from last year's budget was increasing the welfare general assistance line by $5,000.
Okay, I'll make a motion to fund Health and Welfare Department in the total of $92,025. Is there a second?
Ira, second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Constantino.
Constantino, yes.
Fog, yes.
Ira,
Ira?
yes. Ira, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
And Jessamine is yes. The motion carries. Tim?
Okay. In Public Works, I wish I could remember where the $200 went in, but he had reduced his original budget by $4,000. He even did so. Oh, there it is. Cleaning materials for the statues. John, do you recall? We added $200 for the statue cleaning materials. That's what the change was. But the Public Works Director had, when he did his original budget presentation to the Budget Committee, he identified 4 areas that he thought he could reduce his budget some. And after he and I talked, we changed it a little bit, but it resulted in a $4,000 decrease at the time. So his total for Public Works, not including the sanitation, is $652,545.
Question? Oh, never mind. We haven't made a motion yet. So make a motion that we
Okay,
approve.
well, let's do that. I'll make a motion to fund Public Works in the amount of $652,545. Is there a second?
Constantino, second.
Okay, then. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Pat?
No, I noticed my mistake, and so it's the next section.
Okay. Peter?
I'm all set.
Eric,
All set.
Good.
John?
I'm good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes. Constantino,
Yes.
Yes.
Ira,
Ira, yes.
Scanlon,
Cameron,
yes. Yes.
and Jessamine is yes. The vote carries.
Okay, thank
Now,
you. Now in sanitation, this is where we should maybe do the vote for the tipping fees for the haulers. And we had increased that 75 cents to be $72.75 tipping fee per ton charged to the haulers.
I'll make a motion to increase the tipping fee rate charged to the haulers by 75 cents to $72.75. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Can you explain? You said $72.75 tipping fee to 75 cents. I don't get that.
No.
In other
Explain
words, our
An
cost
increase.
has increased. And so therefore, if we don't increase our cost, our charge to the haulers per ton, our administrative profit will dwindle. So
So
this
right
is
now
basically
it's 72 cents.
$72 per ton is what we charge haulers. So we're proposing going up 75 cents per ton to the hauler.
Okay, it was said just a little bit different than that. Okay, I got it
No,
now.
I said it was an increase of 75 cents. I apologize.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Constantino,
Constantino, yes.
Yes.
Ira,
Ira, yes.
Scanlon,
Cameron,
yes.
and Jessamine is yes. The motion carries.
Okay, very good. So the sanitation portion of this budget includes not only the additional costs for the town in our tipping fees from Wheelabrator, but it also includes additional tonnage based upon our, what we've seen this year in 2020. So the total there is $580,742. And again, if I'm getting ahead of myself, Jeannie, I do believe that Director Duval is prepared to come to your next meeting to discuss his plan for sanitation.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to fund the sanitation line, the total of $580,742. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion?
Wait 1 second. Wait a minute. Constantino, yes.
I didn't actually call the vote yet, Pat, but we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Peter, do you have any discussion?
All set.
Eric,
No, I'm good.
John?
I'm all good. I'm good.
Okie dokie then. If there's no other discussion, roll call vote. All those in favor, please say yes. Constantino,
Yes.
Yes.
Ira,
Ira, yes.
Scanlon,
Scanlon, yes.
and Jessamine is yes. The motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So we could go, if you'd like, we could go right through the police department right now, or would you like to? Because I think we're going to spend a little more time on the police department. Would you prefer to jump to culture, recreation, and you'd already voted on the outside agencies? Do you want to tackle this small one right now and then get into the PD?
Sure, let's do that.
All right, so the culture and recreation is a total of $190,051. The two items there that are the more notable items is the park commission increase is due primarily to the need to replace the roof at Riverfront Park, and the park maintenance at the island is for the town portion of the study.
Does the maintenance on the island cover the entire maintenance on the island?
It will. It should. Unless there's a big maintenance that I'm unaware of.
I'll make a motion to fund the culture and recreation line in the amount of $190,051. Is there a second?
I was second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Pat,
Not at this time.
Peter,
I'm good.
Ira,
Oh, good.
John?
I'm all set.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please say yes.
Constantino, yes?
Constantino,
Yes.
I guess.
Ira,
Ira.
Scanlon,
Scanlon, yes.
and Jessamine is yes. That's the motion carries. Let's
Okay,
go back to
wonderful.
police.
So now back to the police department. Chief, are you there?
Yes, Tim, I'm on too.
Did you want to take us down through the changes that we reviewed?
Sure. So Tim and I did another line by line review and just tried to find any place that we could in the budget to make some more cuts and try and make some meaningful cuts. So we started out with our first cut in miscellaneous expenses, and some of these are small, some are larger. Next, we made a cut in sewer. The next line we made a cut in as building improvements. And I can give you these numbers. So miscellaneous was 200, sewer was 260.
And the reason for the sewer is that obviously we're only going to pay for the first quarter of the current PD, hopefully.
And building improvements, again, that was another place that Tim and I felt we could reduce it some more, which we did by 750. Training materials, I think, again, we're trying to capitalize on the ability to host and save some.
Chief?
Chief, you're cutting in and out.
So what he was saying was that by being able to host, are you there, Chief? Okay, by being able to host events at the PD, you may recall from years past when we've hosted things that we often get a free seat or something along those lines. So he's anticipating our training costs are going to go down as we host events in the EOC to train, and other departments come in. The other thing that while he's connecting, I'm sure he's probably calling in. The other thing is that under the janitorial service, I did want to note something. We really struggled with this with the $10,185 because our cleaning company had looked at the square footage and had reduced it based on certain areas they couldn't get into. But if it's cleaned twice a week, total cost would be $18,720. What I recommended the chief do with his staff is to review and come up with a schedule based on, some areas might only need to be cleaned monthly, some other areas might need to be cleaned, even quarterly for that matter. Some won't be cleaned at all by the cleaning company that are more sensitive. And then it's possible that, the high traffic areas would be cleaned weekly, and then maybe alternating with other areas to be able to bring that cost down. So this is going to be a little bit of a work in progress, but we do think that there's a way to get to that 10,185 number, but it's going to be based on changing the requirements that we had for the cleaning. Chief, are you back?
I am, yeah. For some reason, I lost audio.
Okay. So, in any event, you were, I think you were, I forget exactly where you were when we lost you, but we're just killing some time on janitorial.
Sure.
Training.
I'll back up to training materials. So I think capitalizing on being able to host, there's a couple ways we're going to be able to save there. One is some of the tuition costs. So Tim and I reduced that line by 2,000. And then right below that is gasoline. And I think not having to send people all over the state to training by hosting, we're anticipating some savings there. And so we were able to reduce that line by 2,000. And right underneath that, the next line we tackled was vehicle maintenance. In looking at the 3-year average, we felt safe that we could reduce that by 1,000. Underneath that, weapons expense, it's pretty tight because it has a lot in there. Besides ammunition, there's taser cartridges, both training taser cartridges and the actual ones that they use in the field. There's a 40 millimeter training they have to go through, so those training launcher cartridges, and then any weapon accessories. And if they get a weapon accessory with their stipend, it comes out of that line as well. So we were able to take 200 out of there. The next line that we reduced was investigative expenses. A fair amount of that this year was due to transcriptions, and we had some really large cases this year. And so we were able to comfortably take 1,000 from that line. And right below that, pistol range. So far, Franklin is still letting us use the range when weather cooperates, so we reduced it by another 200. Equipment purchases. Tim and I reviewed, the expenses in that line, and we're able to remove another 500. And then lastly, 250 from immunizations. And I believe, Tim, you came up with a total of 13,964.
Yes.
What happens when they purchase something out of the stipends? What line does that come out of?
So if let's just say it's something that mounts on their weapon, it gets charged to weapon expense. If it was an article of clothing, then it would be uniform. So we've been trying to line it to what it is.
Why don't we have a line that says stipends?
I guess
we have a line, because that's a union, it's a contractual item.
Yeah, that's a good point, Pat. That I know of, we haven't. Tim, what do you think?
It's certainly up to the board if they wish to do that. It would make things a little simpler.
We don't. How are we supposed to know what's in that and where it's coming and how much is spent out of that? So you're spending stipend money, which is on their own out of so each person has $200 to spend however they want to spend it, whether it be on a weapon, whether it be on uniform, something to do with police work. And if it's a weapon, you're putting it under weapons expense. So when I go to look at that next year, I'm going to say, well, you spent $2,000 extra in weapons, but really it's stipend money. It's extra money that these folks have got reimbursed from the toys that they wanted on their weapons.
Well, and I can tell you that, and this is somewhat of a procedural thing I've got to address on the back end, because anytime I've processed any of the officer stipends, I've charged them to the new uniforms. And so, there are a few that were charged outside of that. But I think it's a good idea to have, to have a line for the stipends. you know, could
So
certainly
you
do
want to
that.
just add that in, Tim?
Well, there's, we could certainly do that. I mean, I've often wondered year to year, is it some of these really small lines, just from a format and presentation standpoint, like the intoximeter. To me, the intoximeter should be part and parcel of like that the PD maintenance, equipment maintenance, repair, and tech,
Right.
because it's a small amount of money, and yet we're taking up a whole line for it. Whereas I think the stipends is absolutely valid, purpose for a separate line. And it, I mean, people are interested in, in how much we spend on water and how much we spend on sewer and electricity. Those things are important to keep separate. Intoximeter expenses, I don't think is one of those types of things that people are looking at thinking, gee, what did we have to spend this year on that? So if anything, I would recommend to the board that we move the intoximeter expense and budget line and incorporate it with the PD maintenance tech repair line, this line right here, which is 340, and then basically commandeer, we'll create a new line with a new code for it for the stipends. We'll put it just in this area here, either following or before uniform maintenance. So that'd be
John,
my recommendation. I mean,
Joe,
uniforms. I'm sorry, not uniform maintenance. New uniforms.
Okay. Is there any objections to that?
John has his hand up.
And John,
Hey, Tim, if you can slide down to line 99-600, and there's a
600.
note underneath it. And it says that that line already includes the $200. But now it was just stated that that line with the weapons expense also includes money for that. So,
Yeah.
where
So
where is the $200 actually in this budget? Is it in line 600 or is it in the weapons expense line?
it is budgeted in the new uniform line. That's where the $200. When this was included years ago, the $200 per officer, it was added to this new uniform line.
That's
I'd
where
have
it's
to
in the
correct.
CBA too.
What's that?
It's in the paragraph under new uniforms in the CBA. It's as a result of this new uniform so that they could get an extra piece of whatever it is in their uniform. So that's why we put it under uniforms. That was the intent anyway.
So is the
Yeah.
weapons expense number correct? Because I just heard that that's where next year the stuff for add-ons for the weapons that come under their stipends would be taken from.
No, and maybe I can clear this up a little bit. So essentially, what I'm saying is that that I was unaware that those stipends were being charged outside of the new uniforms line. When I processed them, I processed them to that. There are times when Lisa, with everything going on this year, is coding them and entering them, and obviously, as the chief has said, that they've been charging some of those because it was a weapon that the officer bought or something for the weapon. They were charging it outside of that. But I would correct that, and I would even go back and correct it in our 2020 budget, so that if I find any in weapons, that I would move those expenses back into new uniforms, and also just let Lisa know that we need to keep it where the budgeted money is. An alternative to creating a separate line, pardon me, would be to retitle the line "New Uniform Stipends." What you have otherwise are the bulletproof vests. All the sometimes they get all the patches and new gosh, what are all the metal, if you will. Gosh, I don't know all the terms of the things, but there's a number of other things that
Badges.
come out of there. Right.
But you're still not going to be clear. You're not going to be clear if you put new uniforms stipends, because we purchase uniforms, and then if they purchase, let's say, weapons, or let's say they want a new scope for their, which is often what they purchase, a new scope for their gun or a new holster for their gun. It's not really a new uniform. It's stipend money that they use.
Right.
And because it skews the uniform line, because you're going to look back next the following year and say, oh, X amount of thousands of dollars was out of uniforms lines, and people just look at it and say, oh, they spent money on uniforms. Well, really not. You got to look closer, because if they used their stipend money. Well, what do you mean stipend money? So I would like it to be a little bit clearer for the public, the residents, to say they have a new uniform money line in the CBA, and they have a stipend line in the CBA. If we can make that a little bit clearer, that's what I would like.
And also, I think it would be easier in the administration of the contract as well. We have a tool that's set up that I set up for the PD so that they can track the stipends by contract year, which is how we budget by calendar year, but their eligibility is by contract year. So it would I think it makes sense. It makes it a lot easier for the board to see how those are being used, as well as the uniform. So I'd go back to my original suggestion of moving intoximeter to that other line and creating a separate line either before or after the new uniform line that would pertain solely to officer stipends.
Is there any objections to that proposal?
Thank you, Tim.
Sounds like you got it, Tim. Just go ahead.
Okay, will do. All right. So, Chief, you're still on there. Did you cover everything?
Yeah, that was the last. Immunizations was the last one, Tim.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, in the equipment purchases, the PD goes through chairs frequently. They get a lot of use in the squad room and dispatch as well. And so just something to keep in mind. So short of, any kind of personnel changes, that really represents the entire budget. And that budget amount is $2,287,307, which is a 6.6% increase.
Eric has his hand up.
Eric?
A couple of questions. There's going to be some changes happening. Is that going to affect payroll or uniform expenses?
Yeah,
Probably.
sure. Yes.
Probably not want to talk about that.
I was trying to be gentle.
We just amended a town meeting.
If necessary, we can.
Yeah, or for that matter, you can re-vote on the budget anytime you wish.
Prior to that, right?
Yeah, I'm just looking to have a complete budget I can take to the budget committee next week. That's, as I said in the beginning, that's my goal here. Any changes that do come along, certainly make all the adjustments as needed.
Right. And any changes that happen within the next month or so, we can certainly change that before the budget public hearing.
And as Peter said, in worst cases, you can always make a motion at the floor town meeting.
What's the final number, Tim?
$2,287,307.
I make a motion to fund the police department in the sum of $2,287,307. Is there a second?
Eric had his hand up. I want to hear what he has to say before it's second.
Well,
Absolutely. I can't see Eric. I'm sorry.
that's okay. I'm actually on TV. Just out of curiosity, what's the expected cost to pump the septic tank at the PD? Because I see $90 for sewer. What is our estimated cost to pump the septic and how frequently?
Good question. So the initial thought was that we would not be doing it during the first year. We're going to be occupying it in mid-February, and it's unlikely the size of the tank and the leach field that because it's not a holding tank like the Public Works garage. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jeannie. But yes.
What's that?
I was just saying, correct me if I'm wrong.
I didn't, I thought that was rhetorical.
Oh. Okay. Okay, I'll make that rhetorical. So anyway, so no, we shouldn't have to do that within the first year, is the answer to your question.
Okay. Moving on. There's a motion on the floor.
I'll second that,
Is
Joe.
there a second? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Now, discussion. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
Question.
Peter?
Should we change the sewer line to septic, cut it to $1 this year to fund it, and then in about 3 years look at pumping it?
So the $90 is for paying for the first quarter at the current PD.
Okay.
That's what that amounted to, but that's a great idea for the change of name. If there's no objection to that.
I have none. Anybody else?
No.
Well, there you go. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Constantino?
Constantino, yes.
Yes.
Ira? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Scanlon?
Yes.
Jessamine, yes. The motion carries.
Okay. I believe that concludes.
Did we vote
So
on?
that ends our budget discussion, does it?
We voted on everything on the budget. There are just a couple of other little things. There's, I believe Jeannie has something she wants to review on a warrant article. And then I just want to bring up, there's one check that we held out from last week's manifest. Selectman Constantino, did you want to address that, or?
I can't remember what it was, and if it's what I think it might be, it's okay. We
Okay.
figured it.
Okay, all right, very good then.
Is it what I think it is?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I'm sending it to you now. Hang on.
Okay. Got
There we
it.
go. All right. So that's all I had.
Okay. Jeannie, thank you very much, Tim.
Mhm.
Thank you, Tim. Excellent job.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I appreciate it.
So I sent you all a copy of the latest revised town warrant draft. You had voted on several of the articles. Two are ready for you to consider tonight. One is Article 4, which is the $275,000 for the purpose. It's the funds from the sale of the old PD to pay down the debt of the new PD. We did run this language by DRA and John Radigan, and the language is good. So just want to see if you're good with that article.
Sure,
Pat?
I make a motion, we recommend Article 4 to the public, recommended by the selectmen.
I
Is there a
second.
second? Okay, we have seconds. Is there any discussion? I'll just say that this is the right thing to do. Personal opinion. If there's no other conversation, discussion, a roll call vote. Constantino.
Yes.
Yes.
Ira.
Ira, yes.
Yes.
And Jessamine is a yes. Jeannie?
Okay, the second is Article 7, and that is for town roads, bridges, and sidewalks, capital reserve fund for $50,000. I sent you an email on that. It was Academy Street, the sidewalk on Main Street, and the parking lot in the T-Hop, parking lot G, I think it is, which is next to T-Hop. Those are the projects for next year that Kevin has slated. And I think,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Pat?
I move that we approve and recommend Article 7 for the warrant article. Recommend it.
Is there a second?
Whoa.
I'll second it. Just because. Under discussion, I would like to know how much of that money goes to the T-Hop parking lot. Lot G, it's a Tilton parking lot, but any ideas?
I have no clue, but I can shoot Kevin an email and ask him. He did, by the way, he thinks we have we have signs for falling ice and snow warnings, so he's gonna look for those.
Okay.
But I'll ask Kevin and see if he knows. I mean, I'm sure he does know. See if he responds.
Well, you guys want to vote on this in lieu of not having that information?
Wanna wait
Question.
till next week? Go ahead. You just got a question.
Peter?
Tim, what have we been funding it in previous years? I thought it was closer to triple digits, around 90 to 100.
The road, streets, bridges,
94.
Yeah.
we've been putting in
94.
94,000. And if you remember, years ago, we had been budgeting $9,000 a year in the public works budget for sidewalks, but they never got done.
Right.
And
Yeah, I remember.
every year it would lapse. So finally, we added the $9,000 because for years and years it had been $65,000 that we put in, and then it was increased for a particular purpose, and then increased again for the $9,000 for the sidewalk. So I get, unless you really weren't going to be doing a lot in the future. I mean, I guess it just depends on what the board wants to do, but yeah, it's typically been at least 65 or better.
I think I looked at the last two town reports. I thought it was 94.
It has been for the last few
Yeah,
years,
the
but
last two were 94.
prior to that, it had been 65 for a while.
This is a year we could afford it. I don't think the 50 is going to cover your project, so you're pulling the account in the negative in that respect.
Want to put it back up to the 94? Yeah, in the 2019 annual report, towns, roads, and bridges was 94. And it was the same the year before.
So you've put 27,000 in theoretically for sidewalks, at least 27,000 in, and you have done sidewalks. You have done the
Mhm.
sidewalks too.
One, yeah, the north side, they still need to do the south side.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion?
What was that? I'm going to make a motion to amend
There's
the
a motion.
50 to 90.
I'll
Okay, we
second.
have an amendment proposed to increase the amount from 50,000 to 90,000. Is there a second?
I seconded it, Joe.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Yes, being the maker of the amendment, I think we'd be better off putting the 90 in there and amending it down as opposed to putting 50 in there and then deciding we should amend it up at town meeting and do a little bit more research on it.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Pat?
I agree with John.
Okay, Peter?
I'm good.
Okay, we have a amendment on the floor to increase the amount from $50,000 to $90,000. We're voting on the amendment and only the amendment. Roll call vote. Constantino,
Yes.
Yes.
Ira,
Yes.
Hanlon.
Yes.
Jessamine is a no. The amendment passes. Now, the original motion is changed to reflect that it's $90,000 to be added to the town roads, bridges, and sidewalks capital reserve fund. Is there any conversation on that motion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote. Please signify by saying yes. Constantino,
Yes.
Yes.
Ira,
I wish I had more information. I'm going to say
that's
no.
not a vote.
I'll say
Okay,
no.
that's a no. Scanlon
Yes.
and Jessamine is a no. The motion carries.
Joe,
Jeannie?
just
Yes.
quick question for John. John, you said until more research is done. Can you tell me what research you want done so I can direct Kevin that way?
I guess to have him take a second look and see if he feels that we've erred in changing it to 90,000. Um, you know, I want to make sure that we have enough and we keep our roads up there. And I didn't want him to be overly trying to save money on something. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right, good. Thank you. So that was it for these two warrant articles. We're still waiting for the language that would go on the warrant article, boundary lines, and of course, the final number on the budget. So that's all I have right now for warrant articles.
Do you have anything else, Jeannie?
I do not.
Excellent. Is there any other business to come before the selectmen this evening? Pat?
Yes. I have two items. Oh, and Tim has his hand raised.
Okay,
Do you want to take Tim first?
sure. Peter?
Tim.
Yeah.
Tim?
No, I just wanted to remind you the land use change tax. I really need to get that signed so that we can transfer the monies this year.
Okay, will do. Pat?
So I have two things. One is information just came in very, very, very recently, and we need to perhaps go into non-public if we could regarding personnel just for a few minutes. briefly. But before we do that, one thing I did fail to bring up was, and Chief can help me out with this, I think. A couple of weeks ago, I brought up the fact that we were not following the rules on the CBA in purchasing uh, uniforms not according to the contract. However, um, we recently changed uh, positions with officers, and a new officer took over an assignment for SRO and purchasing. Is it SBU? If you call them SBUs, correct?
Yeah, it's like a special purpose uniform.
All right, special purpose uniform, and that came out of was required to come out of stipend money, which was $149. So my purpose in bringing this up to the board is that there are two assigned details with the police department that require a different uniform than the regular dress uniform that you see our officers on. One is SRO, because you don't want them to have a police uniform at the high school because you want them to be approachable. And so that's part of their uniform, their everyday uniform. And I don't feel that we should be making that person use their stipend money for that purpose. The other one is detectives, because they do go on different assignments within the detective unit that need to have that type of SBU uniforms, tactical pants. And right on the cusp of us learning about the purchase of the pants and the payment of the pants, it was told to this officer that they needed to pay it out of the stipend money. And I just want, Chief, if you'd like to speak to that, that would be great. I think that we should probably perhaps allow this to be um, paid out of the uniform money rather than out of the stipend money.
Sure. Thank you, Pat. Yeah, so the CBA covers their two duty uniforms, like the dress uniform. And so the language really didn't allow to go beyond that. But talking with Pat, we kind of both agreed that some of these other special assignments are occasionally going to require a different type of pair of pants. And so if they end up getting that third pair of pants, it would be good if I could cover it. And so we talked about bringing it to the board.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is, what's my question? No, I don't have a question. Never mind.
I have a question.
Peter,
In 17 years in the Winnisquam district, the SROs always wore their uniforms. Billy Patton, Dickie Paulus, Bruce Clough. I don't know who I'm forgetting, but they were always in regular uniform.
Yeah, I agree with you, Peter. I think one of the things we're seeing more of is they're trying to get the SROs, to do some sports with the kids, to be more approachable, and a lot of departments are starting to give them the flexibility to wear like a polo shirt and a pair of special purpose uniform pants rather than the dress uniform, so that whatever they're doing with the kids, it'd be more comfortable and approachable. So there's been a shift in the last couple of years to allow them to do that. But for years, right, all we did was wear the regular uniform.
Well, you had a previous SRO also work in the school district. He used to keep watch over the weight room certain times of the year for the athletes.
Yeah.
so we've had a nice talk. Is there a motion to be made?
John wants to speak.
Yes.
So, yeah, I had a question for Pat. So this isn't like every year they're going to get their regular uniform plus another one. This is more of like they got their stipend, spent it on the previous uniform, and then got a new assignment. So we would force them to buy it,
No,
or
generally,
right?
no, generally you would purchase. They could use their stipend on anything, whether it be a scope or a
Mhm.
flashlight or a holster or whatever. But
Sunglasses.
what sunglasses, whatever, watch.
Wristwatch.
Yeah, right. But let's say that they had it, and so most of the time, uh, you would have the uniforms, and then you could switch uniforms if you know in different assignments. But if you're out there with a new uniform, like now they want you to be more community oriented and wear a dress down at the high school, so that requires a different uniform. So it's a different tactical pant with a polo.
Mhm.
So what they went out and bought different pants, two pairs of pants. Well, that increased the number through the year because they had already purchased that uniform pant that was in the contract.
Yeah.
So they were required to take the other two out of the stipend, which was $149. It was $74 a piece through the uniform people. And so you wouldn't buy them again because they already have them
Mhm.
for that assignment. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's a
Yes.
brand new assignment. You
So
wouldn't
then
buy them every
next
year.
year it would come out of their stipend if they want that type or if they want the other.
They want extra, right?
Yeah, this is
Exactly,
just like the starter, Kickstarter. Yeah,
right,
I get it.
exactly.
Sounds
It's like
good.
a new assignment,
So
right?
now I do have a question. Chief, is the standard uniform for the SRO a polo shirt and tactical pants? Or is it a
So,
uniform and they have an option?
yeah, so we do allow the tactical pants and a polo if they're in that position. We also give them that flexibility in detectives, depending on what they're doing. And I think that's why when let's just say they went into the SRO, they went into detectives, and they had just gotten their regular, patrol uniform, and now might have this need for that other additional uniform. We wanted to be able to get that for them for the first year. And it's really it's a lot cheaper than the traditional uniform that you usually see me in, the duty uniform.
I get that, but the question was, is it required that they wear tactical pants and a polo shirt, or is it an option?
It's an option, and again, it really depends on what they're going to be doing in the school. But we give them that option, Joe.
Okay, so it's optional, it's not required. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, then I wouldn't be in favor of uh, anything
However,
other than what has happened thus far.
but if you're in a uniform and you're out there doing something that playing with, I shouldn't say play because they don't really play, but if you're doing some of the duties that an SRO is actually required to do out there, then you're going to increase your cleaning bill for uniforms. That's for sure. And that's
Perhaps.
and that's kind of like offsetting that a little bit.
Still sounds like it's optional to me and they have a choice. We require them to be in uniform and not a tactical pants and polo shirt. So if they wanted that, I would say it would be a stipend item. That's all. But that's just me.
Well, this is an extra assignment. Just keep in mind, this is an assignment. This is not an everyday officer that's just doing something at the school. This is an assigned detail for them.
I agree. I understand.
Okay.
So
Hey,
did you make a motion, Pat?
hey, Joe,
Yeah, John.
let me, I just, maybe I'm not clear on something. This is only a one-time circumstance that we're approving here, and it's because an officer was previously assigned to regular patrol duty, spent their pants and their shirts on normal patrol stuff, but then was reassigned to do a different duty.
Right.
And so it's just for this one time for that uniform. So next year, if if we were to start somebody out, they would have spent it on these uniforms and not the other, right?
Yes, John.
Is that a fact, Chief?
Yes, I would concur with what John's saying. They would, yeah,
So
they would have.
Liz already spent her stipend on other stuff.
Right, and I think she got her uniforms before she knew she was going into that assignment. And, it obviously could happen with detectives too.
We're just asking for
Okay.
this one.
Yeah, we're just talking about this particular issue that Pat brought up.
One receipt.
Okay.
Yeah, one invoice. Yeah.
So I would make a one-time, not to set a precedent, reimburse a stipend reimbursement of Tim. I think that it's $149 and some change to the SRO stipend, the SRO officer for the purchase of 2 tactical pants. I don't know the exact figure. It's $149 and change.
Chief, will you have?
Is there a second?
Sorry.
I'll second. Scanlon.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. You have an answer to her question, Tim?
No, I was just going to recommend that when the chief or Lisa, whomever is going to research it, they just process a reimbursement request. We can do it that way.
Well, are you going to reimburse, or are you just going to allow that back into her stipend account?
We could actually, that would be the simplest. Yeah.
Yeah, that just allow it back into her stipend so she could, because you'll have till July to spend it.
Yep.
Okay.
So, Chief, as long as you send an email, and we'll make a note of that.
Okay.
So, now we're talking about how much money did she have in her stipend account?
200.
And she spent $149.
On the 2 pairs of pants for the SRO, yes.
Okay. All right.
They only
We have
have-
a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
I'm completely confused. No. This is an officer that already bought uniforms and spent their stipend, and we're adding for the new ones because they're already spent. Is that correct?
She didn't already spend her stipend. She was told she had to use her stipend on these pants.
Because they're optional.
No. It's I'm not.
I hear crickets.
I don't look at it as optional because this officer wants to be a community-oriented police officer and not wear a dress uniform so that she's more approachable to the students, which is, you can go either way. The school would prefer that you don't wear the uniform, and
Do they?
most of the activities that you're going to be engaging in at the school, you don't want to wear your dress uniform because you're going to increase your cleaning bill anyway. So you would partake in doing all of those activities. You wouldn't want those dress uniforms. So she ordered the 2 pair of tactical pants, got them, and then was told they had to come out of her stipend. So had she known ahead of time, perhaps maybe they could have planned a little bit different and not ordered the dress pants that she got a few months back. Do you see?
No.
No.
But she didn't know she was going to be an
No, me
SRO
neither.
because she didn't know she was going to be an SRO back then.
So
Okay.
I can tell you that the pants, one order for the pants was $74.99, and belt accessories was $28.78.
And there's another one for $74.98.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, then. Hearing no further discussion, roll call vote. Those who are in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Can we have
Constantino,
the motion, please?
you want to repeat the motion, Pat?
The motion is to have the 2 pairs of pants paid out of the uniform account, and the monies will be credited to her stipend account.
Okay. So, roll call vote. Please signify by saying yes. Constantino,
Constantino, yes.
Yes.
Ira,
Pyra, yes.
Scanlon,
Scanlon, yes.
and Jessamyn's a no. So the motion carries, and the money will be added back into the stipend account. Is there any other business to come before the Board of Selectmen this evening?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to go into non-public per RSA 91A:3, personnel issue,
Paragraph 2A.
2A.
Is there a second?
Scanlon, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Please say, signify by saying yes. Constantino,
Constantino, yes.
Yes.
Pyra, yes.
Ira, Scanlon,
Scanlon, yes.
Jessamyn, yes. The time is 8:01. We expect to come back into public session relatively soon. But we'll now,
This
Yes, I'm
conference
here.
will now
Yep.
be recorded.
okay. The time being 8:16, I make a motion to the non-public meeting of December 29th, 2020, because the reasons justifying the need for the non-public session still remain. Is there a second?
Second.
Pyra, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please say yes. Constantino,
yes. Constantino, yes.
Yes.
Pyra, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
and Jessamyn is a yes. Is there any other business or any comments from any potential audience out there? No? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Non-debatable. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Constantino,
Constantino,
yes.
Yes.
Pyra,
Ira,
yes.
Scanlon,
Scanlon, yes. See you next year.
See you next year.
yeah, and Jessamyn is a yes. Hopefully 2021 will be better. We
Yeah.
stand adjourned.
Yep. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.